Hi, I'm Esme Murphy, and this is Talking Points. And this Talking Points is about ticks and the crippling symptoms that are so often misdiagnosed when it comes to Lyme disease and other tick-borne illnesses. If you suddenly experience hearing loss, tinnitus, heart palpitations, vertigo, migraines, and arthritis, would you think Lyme disease? Well, those are all symptoms of Lyme disease. In Talking Points, I'm visiting with a Minnesota woman who was misdiagnosed for 16 years before a blood test confirmed she had Lyme disease. She still suffers from Lyme, but she is getting treatment that still helps her. And since 2018, Lisa Najarian has been a Lyme disease activist, raising awareness and money for Lyme disease research. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
All right, before we get into your foundation and the changes there, let's tell your story. How did you suddenly, it wasn't very sudden, it was a long, protracted affair in terms of your being diagnosed with Lyme?
It was 16 long years, it seemed, that I had a myriad of different symptoms that I didn't know what to attribute them to. I had, they were very flu-like symptoms. I had migraine headaches, I had vertigo, my neck hurt, and I could attribute them to different things that I did in my life. Being on the computer for too long, maybe my neck hurt because of that. I would get headaches, maybe it was because of allergies. I would get vertigo, which maybe I had, my ears were plugged up from allergies. So I went a very long time trying to figure out how to fix what was going on.
Right. You even had hearing loss too.
And I still do have hearing loss. My left ear, so the side that you're on. I might need you to repeat.
Okay,
yes.
that's okay. But all of this was happening, and your father-in-law is the very famous Dr. Najarian, and you had access to health care, obviously.
I did.
And you went to doctors, and you were misdiagnosed.
I was misdiagnosed, which is very typical of what happens with Lyme patients. 50% of the people that test for Lyme disease, they test negative because they're going to the wrong sort of a doctor. And I liken it to, if you're a pregnant woman, you would not go to a dentist to deliver your baby. It's the same theory with Lyme disease. If you think that you have Lyme disease or you're having all of these symptoms that don't make sense, it makes sense to go to a Lyme literate practitioner. And that's what Twin Cities Lyme put into place, was a safe place and a knowledgeable place to get tested for Lyme disease.
At some points you couldn't get out of bed, and people were saying or suggesting to you, hey, it's all in your head, right?
Yes, I've heard that many times. I'm crazy. Well, I'm already crazy, but I was crazy. Nobody could figure it out because at one given moment I had 60 different symptoms. And so to try to put all of those together in one illness was crazy. But yes, I went I went a very long time. I was bedridden for an entire month with vertigo. We could not get rid of it. And I suffered from that one episode for at least a year after that.
Wow. Now you actually got a blood test that came back negative.
I had many.
How does that happen? And then, because finally you did get a blood test that came back positive. I mean, how are people supposed to know if they get a blood test and it comes out negative?
That's right. Well, that's why Dr. Otten, who's in White Bear Lake at Northern Lights Medicine, is a Lyme literate practitioner. So this is why I say you need to go to a Lyme literate practitioner, because we can't only rely on the blood test, because what happens is Lyme can lie dormant in your system, and so it can give you a negative reading on your test results, on your blood test results. And so there are other factors that come into play. A experienced doctor can listen to your story and ask you questions, and putting all the pieces of the puzzle together can help them figure out that you have Lyme disease.
And you didn't have that telltale bite sign.
I did not.
Okay, which is sometimes looks like a target bullseye.
Target rash, yes. I did not have that. I maybe had that.
But
I just didn't know at the
recognize
time to look for it. I had been bitten by bugs all the time in the garden. I was an avid gardener when we lived in Illinois, but I never even knew that there was Lyme disease when I was probably bitten.
In terms of 2018 or 2015, you finally got a blood test that confirmed it, and then you got the kinds of treatment. What kinds of treatment did you go through, especially at first?
Heavy duty antibiotics I was on to start, and a handful, and when I say handful, I think I was taking something like 64 supplements along with the antibiotics that that current doctor had me on, or that doctor had me on.
Now, in 2018, you formed your own foundation to help research, raise awareness for Lyme disease. Now you're rolling your foundation into the Bay Area Foundation for Lyme Disease. Tell us a little bit about that in case people want to know where to find advice, the website, get help.
Yeah, I am very confident in the Bay Area Lyme Foundation for taking over Twin Cities Lyme Foundation. They were our mentors from the get-go. So I learned a lot of what went on in the Lyme disease world from Bay Area Lyme Foundation, and that's why we have entrusted them to take over our foundation. We had some really wonderful years with Twin Cities Lyme Foundation and raised a lot of awareness and helped myriad of people get help. And we had to hand this off to them because I am not in a position any longer to give 100% of my efficiency to the people that need it, and I feel that I'm robbing them of something, and I want to forward this on to somebody, or a new foundation that can help them.
All right. Well, obviously this is the wonderful time of the year that so many people in our area just love to be able to get outside and enjoy, and especially enjoy nature, the woods. What advice would you give people as they go out into areas where there are obviously ticks?
Yeah. They're everywhere. They're in all 50 states, and they are on golf courses and in the woods and in your grass when you play. They're all over. They do not fall from trees. They don't
I
fly.
wouldn't have thought of the garden as much. I would have thought more of the woods, but you were gardening.
Sure.
You're pretty sure.
Sure. They're on vegetation.
Yeah.
They are out there. They love tall grass. That's why I say the golf courses. But live your life. I was told long ago by somebody very wise, live your life, and when you come in at the end of the day, use one of those scrubbies to get in the shower and scrub your body, because a small nymph, when they very first hatch, they can be as small as a speck of pepper. And so you maybe don't even see them, and they're attached to your skin. So use one of those scrubbies or a loofah sponge or something like that. Scrub your skin in the shower to make sure that you don't have anything on you each day when you come in from being outside.
Okay. What do you say to somebody who has gone through a few diagnoses that are off, that thinks maybe they'll see this and say, my gosh, maybe it's Lyme disease? What would you say to that person?
Don't give up. I went 16 years, and that's why we started the foundation, because I didn't want other people to have to suffer for that long of a time like I did. I wanted to be able to give them a resource to be able to figure out what ailed them. It's no fun not knowing what you have and not being able to fix it. So I would say educate yourself. You can go onto the Bay Area Lyme Foundation website at bayarealyme.org. You can also go on to ILADS, ILADS, ilads.org, which is a great website to go on to. There's a couple of other ones, but don't go down the rabbit holes.
Yeah, and there is no cure, just to be sure.
There is no cure.
You still have the hearing loss, you still have some of the symptoms, although you could go on and off medication that helps, but not does everything.
Yep, there's not a cure, and that is what Bay Area Lyme Foundation's mission is to find a cure. They work with a lot of really great hospitals, and they have very deep pockets, and they are working as hard as they can to find a cure. But you can get on a management system, and you can take care of yourself.
Yeah, and a Lyme practitioner, somebody who knows about Lyme disease, a doctor, how do you find them?
They're trained by ILADS. They are trained by International Lyme and Associated Disease Society. So they are trained.
So can you ask, or do they have those?
You can ask.
Okay.
And it usually will say on their website. You can also go to the ilads.org website, and you can put in your zip code and find a doctor in your area.
Okay, because many doctors don't get it and could misdiagnose you because they haven't had the training.
Right, and I encourage people not to go to a infectious disease doctor or a pediatrician or the urgent care on your corner. like I said, if you were a pregnant woman, you would not go to a dentist. So even though they might be helpful, they don't know enough to be able to test properly. Until you get to a Lyme literate practitioner, the testing is not thorough enough at the right labs to be able to get a proper diagnosis.
Well, Lisa Najarian, we certainly appreciate you coming in and telling your story again, and also letting us know about the Bay Area Foundation.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, that does it for this edition of Talking Points. Please feel free to email me with comments and suggestions at esme@cbs.com. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Esme Murphy, WCCO News.